no. Good God. Oh. Hey, everyone.
We're live.
Why are you doing that to the people?
Press anything, Kyle. I actually meant it, but I turned out that I pushed a button. Folks, this is not your usual stream. This is the Take B.R.O.ver. And before we get started, let's take B.R.O.ver.
Coming to you from top secret field offices worldwide, these brave men and women fight a battle for truth, justice, and good, clean data. These agents of change make up the Bureau of Records, Objects, and Standards. They are the Data B.R.O.S.
I am so bad at this. How am I so bad? Welcome to Comic Industry Insiders Live. This is the Take B.R.O.ver edition where we are taking over Comic Industry Insiders Live. This is the Data B.R.O.S. It's me. It is in alphabetical order. Django.
Hello. I'm Django.
It's a Take B.R.O.ver, so we're the monsters at the end of this book.
Yes,
Fellas,
and the beginning and the middle.
It's a Grover joke.
I'm not touching another button today. I'm done. I've done all the buttons I'm going to touch.
Sweet. This is going to go great.
Yeah. So welcome to the Take B.R.O.ver. So we are the Data B.R.O.S. We have a 30-minute podcast that airs every week, has never missed an episode, has always come out right on time.
And it's always a tight 30.
Tight 30 minutes of, what would you say the Data B.R.O.S. is, Jeff?
Well, I describe it as your 30-minute appointment to talk shop with the bros.
Yeah. What do we talk about, Django?
We talk about data and comic book industry information and comic book running a comic store. Are you pushing my buttons now, Brian?
Ha!
So that's exactly it. Our last episode that we did was about Toy Boat, where you guys got to go on a boat and enjoy toys.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
And that was fun. Our next episode is I shopped my pants because I accidentally bought a comic store, and we talked about that.
Yep.
And so today we're going to do a little kind of hybrid of those things, and we are going to talk about our own stores. We're going to talk about the Comics Place in Bellingham, Washington. I'd love to hear, because I heard on your podcast this week you were talking about how the fracas with Canada is affecting in general. I know you guys you're like 30 minutes from the border, right? 30 minutes.
Yeah, we're real close to the border, and it's different now.
Yeah. And so when I was there, it's like half an hour to Vancouver, and then another half hour to BC, I should say, another half hour into the city. So an hour away from a major metropolitan city. You're also 2 hours away from Seattle. Great spot. Folks, if you are here to the at the Take B.R.O.ver, make sure that you pop a little comment like Kyle did. Can't take you anywhere. So true. Not able to push buttons. And Derek says Jeff and Django of West Coast.
Oh,
Whoa.
Derek, digging
guys
into
kidding
the satchel of the past.
I guess
Man,
we kind of get around on these podcasts, don't we?
Yeah, when I
do.
cheat on you guys, I bring you to my affairs, but you guys go and cheat on me and don't even.
We invited you down, buddy.
Yeah. I do regret missing my weekly invitation for Meanwhile at Manage Comics.
You're welcome anytime.
Oh, really?
I'll have you on the next one.
I can get in there.
I'm pretty sure I had Django on Meanwhile at Managed Comics.
Yeah.
No, you're welcome to anytime. So in addition to the Data B.R.O.S, we also run our own points of sale systems, although mine's not point of sale. These boys run Comic Shop Assistant. And Jeff's a Django enthusiast. And I run Managed Comics, which is a plugin for Shopify. So not a full-fledged. So we don't really compete with each other. And we actually recommend people check out both systems. So yeah, we're not really competitors.
Your whole package is a point of sale though, because it comes with the Shopify and the, all of that. Don't sell yourself short.
It's
buddy.
the Steve Lieber of comic book managing subscriptions.
The
It's
whole
the whole
package.
package.
I love it. I love it.
Yep.
So today we are going to talk to you guys a little bit about Free Comic Book Day that just passed. And we're going to talk a little bit about kind of store performances and how our stores are doing overall in the first quarter. I don't really have any comparison because I didn't have a first quarter last year on account of this is my first quarter. But I can tell you kind of where I am in relation to where All New Comics was, which is the company I took over from. Does that sound fun, folks?
That sounds super fun.
Sounds good to me. Anytime I get to look at the two of your faces and think about comics, I'm in a good space.
Yeah. And then the second part of the episode in our 0.52, we're going to talk about Comet and talk about Comet from a comic fan's perspective and maybe a retailer perspective. So if you have any questions about Comet and the data standard that we've been building for the comics industry, make sure you get those questions in.
Even questions like, what are you guys talking about? What is Comet?
That's what I'll be here. I'll be here to represent that point of view as the 1/3 of this group not on the board there.
What is data? What is data? Let's talk about how our shops are doing. How are you guys doing up there at Comics Place in Bellingham, Washington?
Well,
things are going pretty well. Django could probably jump in to look at some actual like dollar amounts and percentages as they compare to previous points in time. But as I'm sure every listener here knows, we did recently move store locations. So we have 2 stores right now. We got our retro toy store and then our Comics Place HQ, which has, all of our main inventory. So our equation is a little bit different than it has been in the past. And looking at this multi-store version of it, compared to a year ago, makes it a little bit difficult, but we are kind of experiencing all the things that you would expect with expanding, hiring new folks, continuing to hire new folks. But business has been very, very good. And that's awesome because we are getting cozy in this new space that has a mezzanine and conveyor belt that we love for our backs. But yeah, Free Comic Book Day was a success, I would say. Django, you wanna get in there, jump on my back, little piggy?
Yeah, I would say that. I would say that versus if we're looking at the first quarter, January through March. Our stores are up 29% from last year.
Wow.
The toy store is way slow. It's a boost, but it's not that much of a boost. It's less than a 10% swing in our total sales. So I would say if we had that stuff inside of our main store, we would probably be seeing even better numbers. An interesting thing that I noticed when I was pulling up these numbers, even though we're up 29% January through March, if you go through April, it drops to 24%.
Okay.
So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's a larger economic thing. I don't know if that's our town. Like you said, we're right near the border. So I think we are definitely seeing fewer Canadian license plates in the Trader Joe's parking lot. Yeah. Elbows up.
I mean,
elbows up. Thanks.
I'm sure everyone in this chat is in the Bellingham subreddit as well. So you've seen the conversations around reduced Canadian commerce coming through, which is a total bummer. But yeah, I mean, like Jen was just saying, we've got the main store and the video game store, or sorry, the vintage toy store. I don't know why I just said video games.
We don't sell video. We have 2 video games.
I just want to throw out a plug for our wonderful conversation with Shannon Merritt that we had, who one of the things I took away from that was his ability to kind of see opportunities that are presented that can be growth or learning experiences. So us doing this toy store has been a fun kind of low stakes experiment for us. Since we had found another location we were very excited to move into, we'd still had some time left on our current lease. So we decided to play it by ear and see if we could learn how to start doing vintage toys as a toy store, and then decide how long we want to stay open from there. So it's been, like I said, a real low stakes learning experience. And Django, like Shannon, is very good at sort of seeing opportunities for growth or potential expansion like that. So it's been a very interesting last year or so.
I think
Way worse at figuring out if they're traps,
right,
versus opportunities.
No. You walk into a lot of traps.
Terminal optimist here.
Strong metal shins, adamantium shins to prevent the bear traps from doing damage.
I think you guys have mentioned on social media like the results of that experiment and what the future is going to hold for it. Have you not, or am I spoiling anything if I say anything?
You are not spoiling anything. We're winding it down and moving all of the toys into the main store. So we're expanding the offerings of the main store and kind of consolidating everything over there. Part of it is that sales are kind of low over there and it's barely making payroll. But even more than that, I think it's going to be more fun to have the whole band back together. Right. And, other than just having this giant space that we're paying rent for through the end of August, there's not, because we can fit it all in the main store, why stay at the old one?
So you can fit all the stuff that's in the top floor in that main store now?
Honest. Sure. It's probably fine, 100%. Brian.
Yeah.
What's that look for?
Got a couple collections I'm looking into buying as well. Some large collections.
I'm going to warn you right now, I am not coming down to move that stuff out of that.
It's all right.
Toys are so light, dude.
We'll
I packed them all up last night.
We'll consider that a byproduct of the
Are the back
political
issues
world.
Still up in the second floor?
Well,
much fewer,
but yeah, we have 80,000 comics to move a quarter block down the street, which is.
But we got hand trucks, so that's just like 7 trips.
We got a conveyor belt in the basement. It's fine.
I don't know if you've heard about the conveyor belt, but
no, I've seen the conveyor belt.
Have you ridden the conveyor belt?
The conveyor belt, of course.
That's why it's not working correctly.
The first thing you do. Oh, that was a weight. Oh, that's unfair. That was
no.
Gummed up with your thigh.
No. It actually has been malfunctioning lately, but it's not at all related to you, as the shade I just thrown may have indicated.
Good times. So
you bought a comic store?
Accidentally. So in 2005, I started All New Comics with my partner Peter. He operated it for the next 20 years. I left at some point because I'd moved to London, which is 2 hours away from Toronto, and he was doing all the work, so it just made more sense for him to take it over. In November, he decided he was going to retire, and I said, "What you gonna do with the store?" And he was like, "Well, I'm just done." And we had, at our peak, we had about 350 subs. I think he had about 120 when I took over in January. So I've been slowly I'm at 130, I think, right now. Slowly but surely just kind of getting my feet under me and everything. So I started in January. I've seen like steady growth, but not transformative growth. And I have so much stock that like everybody else is complaining and they've sold out of. And if anybody needs like the first 3 issues of any Absolute, come see me. I'm your Huckleberry. Like, nice. If you need anything that's come out from January on, you need a copy of, I don't know, You'll Do Bad Things. I got copies of You'll Do Bad Things. Like whatever you need, I've got copies. I have learned the lessons of like ordering. I haven't learned them because I keep screwing them up, but
let's hedge your bets and say you've learned some of the lessons of ordering.
I'm learning the lessons.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is what you're working on like that reduction of things that would be left over on the stand? Is that like one of the big ones? Is because I spent a couple years over probably estimating how many I should order of a thing, and I say a couple years, and it's 10 so far because that's how long I've been doing it. But yeah, it's like I love that never-ending battle that you're with yourself.
With a finite amount of space, I got to be really like tactical with how much stuff I bring in every week, because I can't be bringing in like another 100 books every week or another short box of stuff, because I have a finite amount of space that I will run out of.
And definitely don't look at those boxes of extra comics because they will keep you up at night.
Well, yeah, and like I see them as I don't see them as an asset. I see them as a debt, right? Like, so I want to get rid of that stuff. In a perfect world, I would have nothing in my warehouse other than a bunch of trade paperbacks that I will sell over time.
So Django, that's interesting. He considers those issues as a debt, and I feel very similar in that. But I feel like you hold out hope a little bit longer for them than I do. I mean, you're also very aware that they are produce that goes away, but when maybe I would be like, let's just blow these out for $1 each or something. I feel like we're not on the exact same footing there, but let's explore that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors there, right? Like we've built sort of an infrastructure to be able to sell those potentially.
For sure.
They are not super easy to sell, and they do take up a lot of space. There are also, I think there have been enough times where we've thrown things away or recycled them, and then all of a sudden it's a $30 book, right? I remember early on when we were starting to dance, we ended up with what was like 100 copies of A-Force #1 by accident. And that seemed like the biggest disaster ever. So we probably gave them away at Free Comic Book Day or at a customer appreciation event. And then a few years later, they're $10 to $15 comics that you can actually sell.
And they've since gone down again. But
yeah. But like, I think there's something wrong with my brain where occasional rewards will keep me gambling on a long box of comics just in case one of them is worth $10 someday.
And I look at the equation as having an added cost of the space that those things are taking up.
Yeah.
And also the reminder that I suck at my job. But yeah, so for me that, the equation kind of comes down to if I sell these for 25%, but I can actually get rid of way more, it's probably pretty similar to the amount that we would make if we were able to identify a value that's peaked specifically and then get it sold in that window of time and whatnot.
That's a good question from Derek.
That's great. Yeah.
When you overorder, is it more from personal enthusiasm about a book or overestimating customers' enthusiasm about it?
That's a
For me,
great
it's 50-50.
question.
Like, yeah, I think I've gotten super jazzed about some things and expected. And then there's some things that you buy for a long tail. Like Batman Hush. Yeah, Hatoosh, as we call it around the office. Hatoosh. We went pretty deep on it because for the next 6 months, we will trickle sell everything that we've got. So I think I went and by pretty deep, I mean, so I think our Batman numbers, we talked about this a while ago. I think they're like 60 or 70. And so I ordered another 20 on top of that, that's a pretty hefty number, but already I've sold 10 of that original 20. So like that's okay. I went super hard on Martian Manhunter with those bundles. I think I bought 2 bundles, and I don't care if I sit on Martian Manhunters for the rest of my life because that's an amazing book, and I know it will sell over time.
Like the Hush is an interesting one. Django and I had talked about that beforehand. We intentionally went like probably double our Batman numbers on it or something, but because of those bundles, making it, an easily accessible thing to do. And then we kind of talked about the assumption that we'll try to order not as many as that for the subsequent issues, but enough that we'd be able to make bundles of the first like 6 issues or so. It's always hard to certainly, dial in perfectly how much you're going to sell of issue 1. So then what you have left over kind of ends up having some role in how much you're ordering of the subsequent ones, because maybe you could do something with those number ones. Django would maybe have a different answer, but I think at this point I'm pretty cynical about my own enthusiasm for things. Growing up in like a town where most of the people around me didn't like the things that I liked, so I certainly overorder, but I think more often than not, it comes from editorial input saying that something is going to be significant or important. Then, overinflating because of that, the perception of interest that it'll have, or like, not knowing enough about movies or first appearances or what's going to happen there. You always are kind of hedging your bets a little bit to try and make sure you don't miss an important boat that happens. But that happens so infrequently and it's hard to identify that for me, it's a little bit easier to be a little bit cynical and not super lean into that. But I've been ordering for 10 or 11 years at our store, and I think we have a pretty good estimation of the type of customers we have in our store. And so I don't think our over ordering comes from a byproduct of like Django and I being super excited about something. It it's usually, overinflating the perceived value to the customers at large. And then also just like the overall internet community of comic book fans or the national community of comic fans is a very different population than the specific customers that come into your store. So it can also be hard to kind of identify what the larger world is saying about the perceived excitement of something, and then how you feel like that trickles down to the people that actually come into your store. But maybe Django is like, man, this guy loves Jonathan Hickman and Grant Morrison, so we got way too many of those.
If anything, you don't trust your heart enough on things that you're excited about. Like
F you too.
No, I'm serious, man. Like you do numbers on ordering, and things that you're excited about, you second guess a lot more than other things. Like assuming that Hickman is more niche than I think he is, and stuff like that. Like it doesn't happen often, but you know, when there's somebody that you're really excited about, I think that we could probably sell more of them.
Yeah, and that's again the added role that enthusiasm from the part of the workers at a comic shop really does play an important role. But I would say that like the Ghost Machine, Ultimate Universe, Energon Universe, and Absolute Universe are 4 like kind of tricky to predict success of things that have happened, and I'm pretty happy with our numbers on all of those across the board. You know, to have not sold out of Ultimate Spider-Man #1 in the first 2 weeks is awesome.
Ghost Machine surprises me every time. Like we do 20 to 30 copies of every one of those books, and those are great. They're so nice. I was kind of surprised when I took over the company. I didn't really know some of those numbers, what they would be, and they're just because they're such nice looking books and they're good stories too. The only one, Rocket Fellers, I think we only sell like 3 or 4 copies of that one.
It's great.
Our lowest is Hornsby and Halo, and Rocket Fellers is awesome. The Ghost Machine thing was interesting. So they did the interesting thing of, didn't those first 4 issues all come out on the same week?
Same day,
Same day. So
and then they split up.
Django decided, well, we had talked about it, but he'd come up with the idea of like, we rewarded people who tried all 4. So like maybe, or if you got 3, you got that Ghost Machine 1 shot or something. Anyway, we encouraged people to get the first issue of the whole line. And in doing so, I think locked in a larger subscriber base than we would have in the past. So that's an instance of them putting them all on the same day and having a real kind of cohesive through line of the ideas behind the books and the direction really allowed that line to be a pretty successful one.
Yeah, they helped us sort of drive discoverability in our store really well.
I want to ask you a quick question about like bundled things. So Blood and Thunder just came out this week. I'm using my website because
519.
These are Canadian Freedom units. So
that's awesome.
Because we got them in the 10 packs, which were, I think they were like 10 for $5 or something like that. I offered them, like, basically I figured out what my cost per issue was, and then I cut it and offered them super cheap. And I've sold an additional 10, and from that subs, right? Like that's really what I want. I want to sell subs.
Yeah.
So every one of our pages has a link into the subscription. So I've had really good success with this. We've done a couple other things like this. We did this with some of the Absolute books. I know I did it with Absolute Flash, Absolute Green Lantern, and Absolute. I don't know if I did it with Absolute Martian Manhunter. With Absolute Martian Manhunter, I like
you just wouldn't shut up about it, and it worked.
I like did videos, and I was like, honestly, this is my favorite comic that I've read in a long, long time. And we sold a bunch of those that way. Do you guys do anything like that where you're like, here's a promo for this to try and get people interested in it?
We have in the past, when Vault gave away Unnatural Order.
Yep.
I think that was the first one that they did. We sold people the first one and gave them the second one.
That's
right. In order to get them invested in the first issue. And that worked pretty well for that series. It had sort of diminishing returns on the other ones that they put out. But I think those other ones were different books. Like they weren't quite as grabby in that first issue or that first 2 issues. Yeah, we did another one recently, didn't we, Jeff? We had
Yeah, so the
Will's.
Matthew Rosenberg, we're taking everyone down with us. We
That's
had a local realtor who we're good friends with who wanted to use his advertising budget to buy everyone that comes into our store a copy of that first issue. So he paid for all those, and then we put the first issue in everyone's file and then rang them through our registers at 100% discount so we could see who had purchased them. It's always interesting as a comic shop to be trying to innovate and maximize the number of subscribers to a book. So obviously the thought of that one is let's get the first issue in everyone's hand, and then we'll probably have more sales and interest in issue number 2 because so many people would have read number 1. But, you know, there's still problems in the flow of the industry. So like by the time I had ordered my number 2s for that first issue, I hadn't had everybody get that book, read it, and subscribe yet. So my subscription numbers were quite low compared to how many I sold of issue number 1. So that was a real insecure space to be in for number 2. Like, do I order a ton? Django had talked to Image about hopefully getting returnability, but it sounds like we weren't able to swing it. That's but
Yeah.
they are awesome to work with with that sort of stuff when they're able to. But yeah, so it's always kind of tricky. The bundles at DC are excellent, and I send feedback to those folks every week as doing the FOCs. The one thing I would say is that, and it changes from store to store, but the threshold to qualify for those bundles was pretty close to the amount that I wanted in my store. So anytime I qualified for it, it was then like, okay, so my feedback every week was like, these are awesome, and these are the perfect issues to be doing with it, but like, I don't think you should be using the basis number for these to be these very large numbers we took chances on. So sometimes they're lower, but other times they're quite high. And so you have to really think about, is it worth spending $25 to get 25 more copies in?
The weirdest one was Supergirl number 1, which just came out, or is coming out this week. The bundle for that was based on a second printing of, I want to say, Absolute Wonder Woman. And that was before my time. Pete hadn't ordered second printings of Absolute Wonder Woman. So I didn't qualify for the bundles because I would have bought them.
Because you'd ordered 0.
So my lesson, and so if you order 0, then you're not. So my lesson for that is like, I will order 1 of every second printing from now on to make sure that never happens again.
They gotcha.
I would have totally taken 25 extra Supergirls for $25. Like that's such a great deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian, I have a question for you. Is
Yeah.
this a hard 1 hour podcast that we're doing?
It's hard. Yeah, this is hard. We've got an
so according to the schedule, we're 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
I think we might miss some of these bullet points that we were going to talk about.
I think we might have to skip FCBD and talk a little comment, or we can.
It was good.
The second half of it, Free Comic Books Day, and we'll do comments some other time.
Can we make the people vote?
What you're saying, though, yes, people vote. What you're saying, though, brings up a whole other important point of view, point, which is like we got bills to pay.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We got to get an ad in here.
Being
right
a data bro ain't cheap.
Right?
No,
Especially when
It's
you're
cheap. It's not free.
taking B.R.O.ver all the time.
Right. Yeah. So we're going to just dip out for 1 minute while we do a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Carrie, Chief Juice Logician here at Murphy's Apple Juice, and I want to tell you about a very important podcast, the Data B.R.O.S. Finally, a show that dives into what really matters: beverage ratios, orchard yields, carbonation curves, and optimal apple pulp density. I mean, why wouldn't a podcast care about juice analytics? Each week, the Data B.R.O.S. squeeze out 30 juicy minutes of insight. So if you love apples, metrics, and extremely niche podcasts, subscribe to the Data B.R.O.S. today, because data, it's in the juice.
Oh, it's Adam.
Murphy's Apple Juice. It's not the taste, it's the shape, but it's also the taste, which is pretty darn good.
Fellas, I biffed that again.
No
No,
way.
you
That was
didn't.
great.
That was perfect.
I did
Adam
not.
got the uke out.
Yeah, it was. Where did Jeff go?
Well, I
Ethereal.
don't think you biffed it, but yeah, he's ethereal. He's the
There's Jeff.
the intangible Figley.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, go check out our our website, Data Bros Inc., where we do a weekly podcast about data. Carrie, like I don't know what she was thinking. We don't really talk about juice analytics.
No, but I would, whatever. I would say
a soft suggestion that verged on passive aggressive.
Murphy's is our title sponsor on the Data Bros, and sometimes we're not quite sure if they know what we do. Honestly.
I'm impressed that I got that sponsor considering the tumultuous relationship the Perfectly Acceptable podcast had with them years ago.
Yeah, no, it's shocking. And I apologize for the audio levels. I re-edited that. It looked like it was using AI art.
Listen, Murphy's does what Murphy's does.
It's true. They're their own.
They're weirdos.
Yeah.
They've got their own Take B.R.O.ver going on.
I would say everybody should check out murphysapplejuice.com and give them any feedback you've got about their ads or their confusion about what the Data Bros actually are. Because I'm not ready to talk about apple juice statistics, you guys.
No,
I'm always ready to talk about it, but more than that, I'm interested in talking about the bottle shapes. And there's a wonderful gallery of potential bottle shapes that you could purchase and bring into your own home at murphysapplejuice.com.
Yeah. So that's lovely. It's like that's value add is what you're adding there. Jeff.
They're sponsors.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Do you guys want to talk? This is up to you. And please chime in on the comments. Do you guys want to talk Comet, or do you want to talk Free Comic Book Day and events? I can go either way.
I would vote for Free Comic Book Day and events.
Me too.
Let's talk about events.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting one to me because, so my store right now is online only. I've been looking for a location. I really want it to be in the West End of London because there's a lot of stuff in the East End, London, Ontario, not London, England. And just looking at locations, there's nothing that's really grabbing me. I want it to be on a major route. I'd like it to have some synergistic businesses nearby. But everything that I'm finding is ridiculously expensive.
Gotta focus on the synergism.
There's a great building that's $1,500 a month that I wouldn't mind taking the first floor of, but I'm pretty sure it's rat infested. So probably don't bring comics into that environment. So yeah, it's something that's on my mind, but it's not super top of mind because managed comics is still my day job. But that's brought me the idea of pop-up events, and our good friends at Dreamers and Make Believers, when they first got started, they were doing weekly pop-ups at a brewery, which I think would be so cool. We got a couple here that I could do. We've got a movie theater that does rep stuff that I would love to get in there and start talking to them about doing a pop-up event when they do comic related stuff. Mm-hmm. Let's talk Free Comic Book Day first, and then let's kind of segue that into events overall, because you guys have such a cool community where there's things like your wine walk, which I was there for, and I know you just had another one.
Yeah,
where you bring in people that have never been in your store before, 50-year-old women who
rich old white ladies. It's awesome,
yeah, right?
Yeah.
This place is nice.
For now, I'm gonna get all my grandchildren all their gifts from here.
I'm sorry for spilling vino on your tiles.
So yeah, let's start out with it. Free Comic Book Day. How was it for you guys this year? I love some of your philosophies that I've listened to you on the pod talk about with your Free Comic Book Day kind of mentality. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, so Free Comic Book Day was up from last year. Okay. Just from a numbers standpoint, we were up maybe 20%, less than we were up the first quarter, which I think is interesting. We seem to have historically hit a level for Free Comic Book Day and have a hard time really blasting through that ceiling. So that's been an interesting thing. And then the thing that I always like to look at in addition to the Free Comic Book Day numbers is the week around Free Comic Book Day, because some people are waiting to come in or they just came in. So you'll see a little bit of flex in there. And our year over year is really close, within a couple $100 from 2024 to 2025. So
that was also an infamous fifth week, the week before Free Comic Book Day, if I remember. It was the week that the annuals came out.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, so we're a hybrid shop. We have a pretty strong back issue selection. New comics are definitely, like our number 2 category, but they're still what, like 8% of our or 16% of our sales are new comics. So the fifth week doesn't have as much of an impact on our week's sales
Sure.
as it would if we were really focused on new comics.
So what's your number one? Is it graphic novels?
Yeah. Books are 38.72% this year for that week.
I wish we had some pictures of your shop, because that kind of reflects like the footprint of graphic novels. You guys have an amazing graphic novel selection, and like I love the way it's organized, and I'm sure it's even better than when we were scrambling to throw things on shelves.
Brian came to move us into our new store and help us set it all up, and it was one of the sweetest things anyone's ever done, and it was also a great opportunity to get Brian in our store. Yeah, free comic book day, like Jane was mentioning, we've kind of, found a ceiling-ish. There was like our first 6 or 7 years of running the shop together. Every year we were doing what Django alluded to and sort of pulling a Kool-Aid man and busting through that wall with new sales. But we've done a lot of outreach and kind of found the community that's coming in. But more than that, I'm also kind of a couple different minds. I think both of us are about how to do free comic book day, because there's a part of me that just wants to have an endless number of activities for people to do in the store. Like I want it to be not necessarily a huge money-making thing, but I want, coloring pages and photo booths and toys to go through and games to play and puzzles to put together, as well as free all that sort of stuff. Everything that people could spend time doing, I want to add more and more of those to the event. That said, Free Comic Book Day is one of the only comic-based events that are huge, sale opportunities that have a product line and sales structure built into them. So I can't say like, ooh, all these free comics are actually 25 cents. So, what we've done is tried to oftentimes let the free comics speak for themselves, create activities for folks in the store, and then try to like marry that with a larger sales-based promotion in the week after or month after Free Comic Book Day to try and get people back to the store for that.
Yeah. So it's kind of a 2-pronged approach where we try to hit them 2 times, once for the party and once for the pitch.
Yeah.
And it really works. We didn't have a super specific party that we were able to plan this year, but we did promote our moving sale at the other store as part of that. And like hitting a number and kind of staying steady on Free Comic Book Day, even though our sales are going up. One way to look at that is potentially that we have sort of done a really good job of saturating our potential market, and we're getting all the people in. And so that Free Comic Book Day, where if we weren't getting all the potential customers in, we would be seeing growth every year as we find new people. Maybe we've found most of the people we're going to find through Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah,
that's the terminal optimist in me.
Yeah,
it's a thing that like you can never plan enough for all the things that you want to do to make your comic shop special for Free Comic Book Day. Mm-hmm. At the same time, it's not something I feel like we need to overthink way too much. Like, and I love that Django and I in the last couple of years, probably since the Pando, it's a thing that we can kind of just run into and move through. Not the
traumatic planning we used to have to do.
Yeah, all hands on deck, be here at 6 o'clock in the morning. Let's get this figured out. It's like, and that comes with familiarity with the flow of it all, trusting an amazing staff, and then also just being more comfortable allowing things to go the way that they're going to. But it's been
metering the door.
That has been a huge one, and that's a Django business move. 100% through and through. Django
keep a line going outside at all times, kind of thing?
Almost the entire day, and it was never long enough that people were irritated, but I got 12 phone calls throughout the day of people being like, why is there a line outside your store?
For sure.
So
and then also it relieves the staff inside, so we don't need 11 people working. We need 5 people working to run
Right.
the store because we only have 30 or 40 people in there at any given time. And it's not this mad crush of humans pushing each other out of the way for comics. It's like, yeah,
And then,
hang
I
out,
mean,
be nice.
it's like it psychologically gives the people in the store who are customers like kind of a, I should probably get out of here, make room for the next people, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Turnover is pretty good.
And at the same
Yeah.
time, if it's not flooded in there, people are more comfortable
100%.
asking questions of the staff if they have them.
Or
Which
just
is,
moving around. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Nothing stresses me out more than a too busy store where I can't physically move.
that's
Also,
the
our air
main-
conditioning wasn't working yet.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There
Got
you
it
go.
3 days later, though.
There you go.
The main feedback that we would have gotten for the first many years Django and I were doing it was never negative, but if anything, it was like there's too many people in here and I can't move around very well. And those were our two biggest events, our customer appreciation party and free comic book day. That would be the case. So this was our first year in this newer space. So we metered it, but also I think Django and I were both pretty astounded at how much more open the store feels with the same number of people in it compared to our previous location.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. I'm going to throw something out real quick. Derek, I want to talk about this later. This is actually going to be a tease. So I'm going to come back
Love
to this
it.
before we shut down for the day.
Loving these Derek inputs. Thanks, buddy.
Absolutely. Dan Shaheen, our old buddy Dan Shaheen.
Oh,
man.
Dan.
Dan
Our
says
POS precursor.
that's right. Crowds are great advertising for an event. Nobody wants to eat in an empty rest. That is so
That's
true.
True.
Yeah.
That's
See
so
them in
true.
the window.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So for me this year, I did an online thing. Obviously, we had, although literally 2 days before, I was like, oh my God, why didn't I do a thing at the local library? Like, we have a library down the street from us that I could have done an advertisement for a free comic book day.
Put in
thing.
your calendar for next year, baby.
Yeah, don't kick yourself for it. Every year that'll happen.
Well, and the thing is, like, I didn't really think that I had enough free comics, and then all the stuff arrived, and I realized, like, the week before, oh my God, I have way too many free comics. Like, what have I done?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely will do something. And actually, I'm thinking about doing like a almost free comic book day, like
Mhm.
just doing a thing where we have cheap comics, and I do it at one of the local mall kind of places as a kiosk for a day. And that should be
My idea this year was to do that same thing and have it the ghost of free comic book day
that's
pass
awesome.
and just have a bunch of the leftovers from all the different years through
That's
it.
super
Yeah, I
cool.
reached out to the Compton Library to see if they would be interested in a big donation of free comic book day comics to give out.
Nice.
That's a cool idea. So yeah, I did an online thing where we offered like low cost shipping for if you just wanted the free stuff, and if you wanted, because it cost me money and I can't afford right
Yeah,
now.
dude, good
It's
call.
my thing. But if you ordered more than $25, we offered free local delivery. And then if you ordered more than, I think it was like 60 or something, we would deliver it as well, like ship it. So yeah, I did decently. Like I got, I think 15, 16 orders that day, which for a random Saturday was pretty decent.
Nice.
It also coincided with the end of like a subscription kind of cycle. So I offered all my subs on the Wednesday a sneak peek where they could order the stuff, and then I'd ship it out with their stuff on Saturday. So
Nice.
yeah, we got rid of quite a bit, but not as much as I had ordered. Also, was it just me, or was April a really, really expensive month for
It was
comics?
a really expensive month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And
Like-
May is shaping up to be similar just based
Dude.
on our lunar invoices right now. And I don't
Hardcovers, a great
Yeah.
line of comics that have a ton of subscribers, bundles. Yeah.
it's hard to complain when you're up 29% or whatever, but it like those absolute numbers every time they come in, I'm like, oh, again, that's an expensive invoice.
Local comic shop day being moved to the end of September is great for us. We do a fall festival that's a great idea.
Nice.
Yeah, Fall
Tom.
Festival is such a cool idea. We did a Halloween dance one year at our store for because we're a big college town, and some sort of autumnal event is excellent. And local comic store day being able to dovetail into that is really great.
Yeah.
For sure. Dan says, love what you guys are doing POS wise. Not a POS. I was going to jump back into that, but running a comic shop got way more complicated post DCD. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah,
You
man.
thought it was crazy then. It's gotten crazier.
That was kind of the inspiration of us. Well, we were kind of forced to build it
Yeah.
in order to keep our store going.
Yeah.
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 it was,
Django, Jeff and I spoke. They did a demo of Managed Comics back in like 2020,
2020, something like that. Yeah. December.
And yeah, that's how kind of we became buddies. It's
Yeah.
Once I was not running a store, development became impossible. You guys are doing it right. Yeah. I will tell you, as somebody who didn't run a store before and who is now running a store, Managed Comics became way better once I started running a store. Man,
Yeah.
the changes that happened quickly, because I was just like, oh, this is dumb. This can't
Too many clicks. Too many clicks. Oh my
It's
God,
also
too many
just
clicks.
like, for us, we've got a pretty large staff at our store. It's like 10 folks. So when we implement something before we would push it out to other stores, it gets beaten up by a lot of different brains that think about things differently. So the demands that we're able to identify and the problem solving with how we're implementing things is that's been a huge help for us. Again, the need to have built a point of sale system for our store out of self-preservation. That was how it all started. And for us, I'm very pleased that that's how it was motivated.
Yeah. 100%.
I almost named my consulting company Too Many Clicks. That's good.
That's brilliant.
The big one for me was like, I think it was the third poll we did, when the end of the thing would come out and I've got 5 extra B covers. And I'm like, okay, guys, why do we have 5 extra B covers? And then it would be because they just didn't see the B covers. So we bolded B covers. Like, it's just the simplest thing in the world, right? But this system existed for 3 years without bolded B covers until I saw that was an issue. And it's not the kind of thing that somebody would complain about, but it's the kind of thing that if you have the ability to fix it, you're just like, this just... And so we don't miss B covers now because of that.
Well, all the assets of the levers and buttons you can play with, and this frustration point, and you can tweak it. Jeff, that was an early thing that Jeff suggested when we were building our pull sheets, was bold for B covers and also for anybody that gets more than one, because in our store we have mostly 1 at a time subscribers. And it's really easy to just assume that everybody's getting 1 and to miss something.
And assume it's the A cover. We call it poll blindness.
Yeah. No. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Have you changed the number of entries on your pull sheets to help Jeff's carpal tunnel?
No, I've not. No.
So we have less comics on the sheet, bigger font, less comics to lift in each round at the tables.
Yeah, we fixed our pull sheets to have a maximum number of books on it that wouldn't put you in that position where you're holding way too much, because this nerve bone right here, I'm preaching to the choir, you all know, but when you spend 2 hours every week holding that, it's bad for you.
The next little thing that we're going to do that I'm going to add is the ability to go back in time and grab pulls by a company, like by a distributor. So right now, like, it's by date. So if I check in Lunar today and Diamond tomorrow and Penguin Random House the next day, it's fine. But Brian Garside, check all the invoices in most of the time. And then I let the kids do the pulls. Because the invoices are so complicated sometimes, like Penguin Random House with 75 invoices. So we need to have the ability for them to grab, okay, we have a finite amount of space, so we can't put 757 comics out. We have to put all the Lunars and
a few
all
boxes at a time. Yeah.
It's been so fun watching Brian have taken over this store and be running this store for a ton of reasons. But it just makes those other kind of things click into place. Also, as our primary competitor, couldn't be more excited about him being busy. That's great. But it's also really fun to get your text, as you're unpacking things. And it's just reminds me of how much fun running a comic shop is.
I love opening something up super early, because we often get things a few days before you. And if it's something I look at and just oh my God, this is so cool. Like the blind bag that I did a little video and sent to you guys, because it was just so much fun. Curious
Dan,
about this for you guys.
yeah,
Do you
yeah, please.
pull by
Dan.
title or by customer?
I've been so interested in this early. So Django and I own a shop that we're like the 4th generation of owners. It's been open for like 45 years. There's a lot of workflow things that were a part of the store that Django and I kind of married into. But one of our early employees, probably a decade ago, was kind of had it stuck in his brain to try pulling by item rather than customer, because we had historically been pulling by customer. You get a sheet, the name, and all the books they get. So much of that comes down to the geography and layout of your store, because our pulls are kept in file cabinet drawers with name tabs in it. If we were to pull by a title, that would mean going through 4 file cabinets alphabetically, to get one book done and then start again, which is hard on my knees and my back. Pulling by customer meant that we only had to go through that alphabet one time. And so if you were on your knees for a drawer, you were on it for that whole time, not getting up and down and whatnot. But when we started doing our show and tells and asking other stores, the idea of pulling by item, we had tried it in our store and it was not conducive to our workflow.
Right.
So I just assumed no one would do that. But I would
Probably
say
50-50.
I was going to say probably 50-50. So, it's one of those instances of just like, get out of your own workspace and see why other people do things the way that they do, and you'll learn something.
Sample some of their dog food.
Get some of that dog food.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, we offer both, but we do it by person. And then we check at the end of it where we go back and like if we have, so we know that on check-in, let's say Batman, that I've got 120 of them and there should be 22 left over. So at the end of the check-in, we count how many Batmans we have left over. We have 21. So on Batman, we have to go through 91 things. Usually what I say is, okay, first of all, let's go to everybody that has 2.
Right.
Let's see who
Do that for
and then let's go to everybody that Django pulled.
I will say that pulling by customer rather than title, for me specifically, like forces my brain to be spending time with a person's pull list and a person's pull list, which makes it way easier to like store that information in my brain of like, I'm way more familiar with what Brian Garside's pulls are if I'm pulling his whole stack of books rather than seeing his name come up 14 times on different titles. It's harder to
we're going to get the cheesecake covers for Brian.
Oh,
just for example, just
Scott Campbell,
Adam
Adam Hughes,
Boundless when available.
Any Boundless book is part of Brian's subscription list. Yeah,
got it.
Illegal in Canada.
That's why it was surprising.
And that's why you explained that we're ordering them for you. Yeah.
Valid point. Valid point.
The rest of those guys.
I love the mnemonics you come up with for customers, like, and it's so hard to not refer to them as that. But like even back when I was in the shop, we had nicknames for all but my favorite, like of the customers we have now, there's I think his name's Rick McDonald. But every time one of the kids says it, Rick McDonald, I said, oh, he has a farm. And it took them the longest time to figure out that I didn't know he lived on a farm. It was And then the other one is Rick McFall. I always say Legends of the Rick McFall.
Yeah.
Legends. Dozens of just bored out of your mind little nicknames.
Yeah.
One of our employees, Roman, who hired Jeff, who hired me. Roman, every time you say man, he says thing.
I love it.
So you have to, like, you can't use man as a spacer word around that guy because he will just totally derail the conversation for you.
And that's one of 100 that he does. And when he was doing the polling, it was just a long list of those connections that his brain had made.
I had a boss where if you were talking about a task and you left a space, he would say to do it. And so you'd be like, so yeah, I gotta go grab the groceries and to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Dan always pull by title, then per customer using sorting. We do the opposite. I pull by customer and then spot check.
1 million ways to run a comic store.
Conan the O'Brien.
And it's an excellent reference as well because who doesn't love Conan?
So good. So good.
Yeah. Yes. So
Uh,
one of the great things all comic store people have in common that we don't talk about enough.
Too true. As we wrap up, we do have one more ad to play. So I better get that done.
This has
Sponsorship.
been really fun.
We'll be
Yeah.
right back.
I like
after-
taking B.R.O.ver, you guys.
Oh,
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Be right back after we pay some bills.
Hi, I'm Carrie from Murphy's Apple Juice, the only apple juice that understands it's not just about the taste, it's also about the shape. Our bottles? They're ergonomically ambiguous. Our flavor? Statistically apple. And our founder? Allegedly exploded a musket full of cider during the Civil War. True story. Probably. Murphy's isn't here to be normal. We're here to hydrate you with history, hubris, and just a little hint of heavy metal poisoning. The fun kind. So don't just drink juice. Experience Murphy's Apple Juice. Because chewing is for amateurs, and like our song says.
Put it in your mouth and you drink it. Drop an ice cube in there and flick it. It's Murphy's apple juice. And you want some juice and you want it in your mouth. To get an apple and suck that juice right out. Or go to your local grocery store. Ask for Murphy's and ask for more. You put it in your mouth and you drink it. Put a little boat in there, won't sink it. It's Murphy's apple juice.
Murphy's Apple Juice. It's the shape, not the taste, but it's also the taste, which is pretty dang good.
Did I just see an AI version
No.
of Philip Sablick?
No. So it is worth mentioning that while they do use a light filter on their photographs to make everything look warm, all of those photos were taken from the Murphy Family Day that they have out at the orchard. Where
Their one kid has 6 fingers. I've seen.
Yep.
Kid, yeah.
Wow, Brian, don't shine a light on it. It's a beautiful farm where it seems like that golden light hour lasts forever.
Always.
Yeah, but that was a very, very fun day that Django and I had helped set up and then had to leave the day before it actually took place. So all those photographs are wonderful. We would have been in more of them had we gotten to stick around.
Yeah. I don't think it's AI, but we are definitely not in charge of them, and we
I'll have to talk to Carrie.
No,
It's a weird company.
It's Murphy's Family Orchard Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little Leroy 6 finger, as they call him.
Guys,
Don't shine a light on it, Brian.
don't shine a light on his fingers.
I'm so sorry. All right. As we wind down for the Take B.R.O.ver, anything else we want to talk about? I am going to pull up that comment about bundles because I've got a little.
We did the podcast this week, Comic Industry Insiders. We interviewed Shannon Merritt, who Jeff alluded to a little bit earlier. Had a great conversation with Shannon, who runs 901 Comics, 901 Toys, 901 Games, 901 Comics East, Java Cabana, and like 4 other things in Memphis.
9 businesses.
9 businesses.
Business eye.
Yeah. Nicest guy probably on the entire planet. And also just a beast when it comes to finding partners to open businesses with.
And from what I've heard, a heck of a sandwich maker, which I haven't experienced, but I've heard
sandwiches.
Man makes a mean sandwich.
And one of the coolest
nice
comic offices ever. Also worth mentioning, every week Django and I do a comic book podcast discussing the week's comics called Comics Place Presents, a perfectly acceptable podcast wherein Brian Garside is a frequent contributor through the voicemails and emails, and maybe we should just get him on for a full episode again because we love him. But definitely reach out, find the Comics Place Presents Perfectly Acceptable podcast. We're coming up on episode 400.
That's unbelievable, guys.
We've been doing it since before Django and I even liked each other.
Yeah. Well, wait
a minute. That was rude.
Oh man, that's a bummer.
I just got zammed.
I'm glad I grew on you, I guess.
I love it. I'm gonna throw this up. So what do you guys think about the new blind packs? Example: Battle Beast, Exquisite Corpuses. Is this more of a direct consumer fad, or can this? So what's funny about this is this morning at 11:27 a.m., I texted Adam and said, "Oh my God, I have next week's topic. Crazy marketing ideas, road trips, blind bags, and bundles. Oh my." So look for that next week. Maybe we'll bring you guys in. Adam said, "Oh, I can talk for many hours about this topic."
Adam
For those of
knows
you who
about
don't
crazy
know,
marketing.
Yeah.
Man, the stuff that they used to do with that idea. I don't know if I'm impressed or angry at them half the time.
I mean, it goes back so much farther. Like, what was the comic that had a bullet hole through it?
Yeah,
Right?
that was the Valiant. Blood.
Was there a Bloodshot that had that?
Blood Bullet.
Blood Bullet.
Something,
There was,
yeah.
There was also one that Malibu put out. I think and it had a drill hole through it. It was supposed to represent a bullet, and they actually, I think, built the panels around it.
So there was something else similarly to this blind bag thing. Walking Dead.
Yeah,
Spawn?
Walking Dead did a similar thing.
I can't remember exactly
100%
what it was, but
they did. They reprinted special issues, like key issues, and blind bagged them with ratios of black and white.
And didn't Chip and they did this with Sex Criminals. They had like a sketch cover that was randomly in there, and it was all black. I remember it was
in the porno bags. Yeah.
Yeah, Sex Criminals was more about being able to get away with covers they couldn't get away with without the bags.
Yeah, for sure. But they also did some like blind, like there was some special stuff in there back then too.
So it's not the first time that it's happened with this Battle Beast. And if I remember correctly, the polybag is the same price as the other, or is it $1 more?
I think it was
it's a pretty low
close.
price.
It may have been a little more, but yeah.
I really like it.
Yeah, me too. I've talked to a couple of stores who said that they just ordered all blind bags and they're going to open up a bunch to get their shelf copies.
Populate the shelves.
And I was like, oh man, that would have been so much fun. But I just bought like a half dozen extras for myself and then some for the store.
And there's a little brouhaha about these ones because I think there's like differences. You can figure out what's what in there to some extent, which is a bummer.
That's interesting because when we literally just grabbed the first two off the pile and Max said this one feels different than this one, and he was right. And the one that he thought was more valuable was actually the B cover. And I had grabbed, purely coincidental, I grabbed the Invincible 19, first appearance of the Battle Beast.
Nice.
So we opened those up when we got home, and it was super cool.
I think what we'll do, Jeff and I haven't talked about this yet, but I hate the idea of somebody sniffing out which one to buy. So I think what we'll probably do is put them in bags with 2 or 3 boards behind
That's
it
smart.
To make it hard to tell by hand.
Yeah. For us, everything's on, and so we're just gonna grab the next one out of the pile.
I think it just, in terms of like how do we feel about it, I think it comes down to, as a store, how easy is it for you to manage alternate covers, do like auto sub type things. So for us, we had moved all of our Invincible subscribers or Kirkman associated titles, auto sub them to the A cover of the first issue. But our entire shelf quantity, which is like 2.5 times the amount that we ordered for subscribers, are all the blind bag ones. Assuming that they're the same price, like I think it's an awesome move, especially with like, something like Battle Beast. I think it makes more sense than like if it were Batman 2 Tushti. Because I do think for things like that, there is a general consensus of like the A cover is kind of the historical, that's what's going to be shown in Overstreet. That's going to be shown place like that. You create an association with it. But when it's these kind of image tier titles and stuff, I think people are much more open to getting whatever cover they're going to get. So this provides a really a fun way to do that. And if you just get the A cover, if you didn't spend more for the polybag, then I would assume you're going to be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. That is that's going to do it for this week. I got to get up to Earth 519 and do the pulls right now. So there we go. Fellas, where can they find you online?
Well, they can find Jeff and me at comicshopassistant.com. They can find our comic store at thecomicsplace.com. They can find our podcast just by searching Comics Place or Perfectly Acceptable on your favorite podcast feed. And you can find all 3 of us at databrosinc.com or by searching Data Bros in your feed. And on Adam's podcast, Comic Industry Insiders this week.
Yeah, make sure you listen to this week's Comic Industry Insiders because you're going to hear our interview with Shannon Wheeler or Shannon
Merritt. A lot of Shannons in the comic industry. I'm Jeff. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. And you can find me, as always, on Venmo at Jeff-Figley.
I just can't wait. I can't wait until we hear about the millions of dollars that you've been quietly pocketing on our hard work.
Thousands.
The real marketer there.
I'm Brian. You can find me at Manage Comics, but more importantly, if you're Canadian, you should go check out Earth 519. Jamie Coville, I know you got a prize last time that I shipped out, so I hope you got that, and you got that through Earth 519. So yeah, go check out Earth 519 and buy some comics. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks,
and
Brian. Thanks, Django.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks,
Kyle.
We love you, Adam, and thank you, Kyle, for always being the safety net to any comic speaking event, performing event, anything.
Absolutely. And as Adam always says, namaste, y'all.
Namaste, y'all, indeed.
Thank you.